Yeah, just about.
Good afternoon. How's everybody? All right. On behalf of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Pro Football Hall of Fame Luncheon Club Board of Directors, I call to order the 7th meeting of the 61st year of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Luncheon Club. Our invocation today, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, will be given by Rod Stockdale of North Canton Church of Christ. Rod?
Would you bow with me? Our Father in heaven, we come into your throne room humbly asking for your love and guidance. Father, we thank you for this day and all of its blessings. We ask you to bless this assembly, Father, and help us to be good citizens of your kingdom. We ask a special blessing on the people of Israel and Ukraine. Watch over them and protect them. Be with the leaders of our country and guide them to make good decisions. Watch over us now and bless us. We ask, help us to serve others in all that we do in your name. It's through your Son's name we pray, and amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, another great weekend of football here in Ohio, Stark County, for sure. Congratulations to the Buckeyes, a big win on Saturday. They needed that. The Browns on Sunday, a win. Wanted to let everybody know we've had much success here in Stark County, and I want to give you all the schedule of the Stark County teams that qualified for the playoffs this weekend or next weekend. And so if you can make it out to one of these games, I'm sure that they would appreciate that. Division I, Region 1, Strongsville is at McKinley. These are all Friday night games, by the way. Lorraine is at Glen Oak. Jackson is at Berea Mid-Park. Division II, Region 7 has Central Crossing at Massillon. St. Charles is at Green. Perry is at Lakes. We have two local teams playing each other. Hoover travels to St. Francis de Sales. In Division III, Region 9, Alliance is at Aurora. In Division 4, Region 13, Northwest is at Canton South, so a couple more local teams playing against each other. Coach Tressel added this one for Coach over there. Glenville takes on Lima Bath on Friday, so Coach Ginn, make sure you root on the Tarblooders. Division 5, Region 17, Sandy Valley travels to Cortland Lakeview. Fairless is at South Range. And Division 6, Region 21, Cardinal is at Canton Central Catholic. And then Division 7, Region 25, Southern is at Malvern. So if you get a chance, certainly I'm sure they would appreciate the opportunity for you guys to attend. I want to address, I guess, the elephant in the room. I don't know how many of you saw the game Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Massillon-McKinley. It was an ugly game, obviously, and I had an opportunity to call that game with Coach Tom McDaniels. He was our color analyst on Saturday. And I want to read you something that about 3 days or so before that game on social media, someone asked Coach McDaniels about coaching in this game. I want to read you this and how profound this should be. Tom says, "It was our responsibility to perpetuate the history and tradition that we inherited from our predecessors. It was a shared responsibility between coaches and players of the present to honor those from the past who gave us this gift. History and tradition like that is a gift, not given to all who play the game. Be respectful and thankful for the privilege to play for the red and black in this rivalry. Show your respect and thanks by playing as a team with incredible effort and class. How we behave is as important as how we play." Now, for those of you that saw that game on Saturday, I think Coach's comments hit home there. So hopefully they'll clear that up, and we obviously wish both teams the best of luck as they play Friday night. But I thought that was important to mention that that has no place on the football field. A couple of announcements. First of all, let's introduce some of our special guests here today. To my right, far right, is Jim Lindesmith, our club secretary, who's with our clergy this week. And you met Rod Stockdale from the North Canton Church of Christ. My far left, the head football coach at Glenville High School, Ted Ginn Sr. Obviously, our guest speaker today, Jim Tressel. I want to recognize our sponsors, as you see up on the boards here. Dr. Peter Ferguson, Marion Motley Memorial Fund Scholarship, AltCare Primetime Health Plan, Wilkshire Golf Course, and Liberty Ford. A couple of announcements. For those of you that got a copy of this calendar last year, they are available again this year. We'll have them in the back. They are from AltCare, compliments of AltCare, so you can pick yours up in the back if you want one. And we'll have them for the next couple of weeks. Is that right, Mike? Okay. Also, for those of you that haven't been here the last couple of weeks, I want to remind you that our dates have changed for our meeting at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We will be at the Hall of Fame on November 20th instead of the 13th. And Don Hertler Jr. will be our speaker here on the 13th, so we flip-flopped those dates. And then again, on the 20th, we'll have a Hall of Famer at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll start selling those tickets 2 weeks prior, which will be November 6th. So make sure you get a ticket for that. And then if you're not receiving the weekly newsletter, if you're not receiving it, see RJ. He'll get you on the list there, through the email list as well. All right, brings us to our 50-50 raffle. We have $264 in the raffle. And who's got it? Tim. All right.
Yep. Make one friend. Make one. TJ Downing. No.
It is a white ticket. 449671. See Rich, or Tim Richard in the back? Right over here. $264, congratulations. All right, our speaker next week, put this on your calendar, Ray Freeman. He's a former NFL player and a 2023 National High School Football Hall of Fame inductee. So we're looking forward to having Ray here next week. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the gentleman who will introduce our speaker today, Ted Ginn Sr. I've heard it said that he uses his playbook to transform boys into successful men, and he certainly has carved out a name for himself as the Glenville High School head football coach. His son, Ted Jr., was a standout at Ohio State and as an NFL player. He's also, Ted Sr., a 2003 National High School Hall of Fame inductee. Here to introduce our speaker today, please welcome Ted Ginn Sr.
Good afternoon. It is an honor for me to be here this afternoon to introduce a great man, a legend. First, I'd like to thank RJ for giving me this opportunity to introduce the man of the hour. We all know all of his accomplishments, from football coaching at Youngstown State, Ohio State, national championships, Hall of Fame coach, and recently he just retired as the president of Youngstown State. But the things that you probably don't know is the fact that Jim Tressel has been my friend, my brother, for 30-some years. I first met Jim at a FCA camp. That's Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we've been friends ever since. Jim has been a great impact in my life, in my family's life, in the community from which we live in Glenville. Many of my players, and a lot of players across the country. Our friendship has became one of the greatest friendships that I can even imagine. I became the Northeast Ohio recruiter for Ohio State. And it was basically based on Jim Tressel, because I knew the impact that he would have with young people once they came to Ohio State and their life would change. It was my responsibility to develop children and players for Ohio State. My funnest memories was our Wednesday talks. And our Wednesday talks started with Troy Smith. Those memories was something special. Now, I didn't get paid to coach at Ohio State, but Jim did. I had to help Jim coach Troy Smith. Every Wednesday, it was like Bible study. We had to decide on how we was going to deal with Troy from week to week. We shared a lot of things: life, football, family, politics, but most importantly, we shared the religion. Our relationship went beyond football. When I struggled, I could pick up the phone and call Jim. And I can call him now, even though he's retired. We always had found a way to laugh when things was bad. All of these things created a Glenville pipeline, which you all know. That was the first pipeline to Ohio State, but the second pipeline was to Youngstown State. I started my recruiting again. This time I was recruiting academic students. This was part of our relationship because we had the influence over young people. We both are servant leaders. We just use football in one spot, and we use academic in the other spot. Once again, it shows that when children meet Jim Tressel, their life change. If anyone could write a book about Jim Tressel and Ted Ginn, it would be the bestseller. There is so much nonsense that goes on in the world today. And without people like Jim Tressel, the world is doomed. People like Jim Tressel needed more today than it was yesterday. But no one can live a lifetime as a servant leader. Jim was a guy who could get rid of nonsense and make you use your common sense so that life could make sense. He was good at that. I have never met anybody like Jim Tressel. So without further ado, my friend, my brother, Jim Tressel.
Thanks so much, Coach. This is about my 36th year here or something like that. Finally got a good introduction. I'm sure you can tell that there's a great deal of love between the two of us. And we would usually end almost every conversation after we handle what was going on with our teams, our individual players, what was going on in the world and so forth. We would always remind ourselves, if not us, who? That we have to keep believing in those young people, keep trying to make a difference, have patience, utilize that great game of football, utilize education and opportunity and believe me when I tell you, there is no one who impacted my life any more than Coach Ginn. And I might give him a special treat. When we get to the questions, I might bring him up with me, because every coach needs to hear from you guys a couple of those tough questions. So we're going to share some questions, okay? There'll be a great opportunity for you. But I did warn him. I said, even if you're in mid-sentence at 1 o'clock, these guys are leaving. And I said, don't take it personal. That's just the way it is here. But it's always so great to come. I remember when Jeff called and said, well, now that you're retired, do you still want to come? And I said, well, yeah, now I finally have time to come and make sure I can see my old running backs back there, Danny Simon and Marty Rogers, and see all the coaches and see Coach Hertler and my old Yellow Jacket rode over there. And this is always a special Monday for me. And I did bring my Marion Motley book. Have you all gotten the Marion Motley book written by David Morgan? If you haven't, you need to get it. Because you talk about someone who impacted this region, this game, the sport of football. There are so many lessons in this book. And I remember when Coach Ginn was inducted into the National Football High School Hall of Fame over here at the Hall of Fame, Marion's granddaughter, remember her? Right. Impressive. And there's just some great lessons in here from Bianca Motley Broom. And I'm not working for any fee for David Morgan, but I'm telling you, you need to pick up a copy of it. It was 9 months ago today, January 23rd, 2023, that I was here last. Now, normally I would be gone a whole year, and somehow I got up onto the front. I think I told Jeff that, I might next January be somewhere where it's warm, and so I might miss you. So I might have to get here a little bit before that. So I thought to myself, I've been retired, which I flunked retirement, just so you guys know, but I've been retired since February 1st, so it's almost 9 months ago. And so I looked back at my calendar. I thought, well, what the heck have I been doing? Because normally when I'd come see you every year, we'd talk about what was going on at the university and what was happening and new projects and new things we were excited about and new things we'd learned and all that kind of thing. And so I looked back at my calendar. I thought, okay, where did I use those 9 months? Because it's been fun, I have to admit. I learned some lessons. Retirement, I lost the one thing I used to have. I used to have 1 day off a week. Now I don't have a day off a week, so I lost that. But there are so many things that I always wanted to be available for, whether it was family or friends or my old players, my old coaches, or some cause or whatever. And it would all, oh gosh, I can't, we're tied up, we have to do that. And so the last 9 months, I've spent part of my time, we have one big project left at Youngstown State that I want to see to the end, and we're building a new student center. And our first student center was built in the mid-'70s, and it's 50 years old or whatever. And so I spent a lot of time working on that. I got to reconnect with the James Cancer Hospital at Ohio State, which was a special place. Right when we got hired at Ohio State in 2001, my mom got cancer and ended up passing there at the James, but the care that she got, and so a love relationship began there. So I got to go back and get involved with that. In fact, I got to go on the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer, which I'd never been on a cruise in my life, and I wasn't real. The thought of being stuck on a boat with 600 Buckeye fans was a little daunting. I thought, I'm not sure how this is going to work, but it was awesome, and I got to spend a whole lot of time with Coach Day. He came on with his family, and I got to grow to know him a lot more and grow to appreciate him, and he's just a fine young guy, and he's coaching with a lot of passion, and he's young, and he wants to learn every day, and it was just fun sitting with him talking about things, and so we had a chance. I think on 1 week on that cruise we raised like $4 million for the James Cancer, and so that was fun doing. And a lot of people, when they retire, now none of you look old enough to retire out here yet, but a lot of people pick up golf when they retire. I've never been a golfer, but I did join a golf league. We play once a year. It's myself, Coach D'Antonio, and Coach Bowman. We play 9 holes, and it's highly competitive. If you break 60 for those 9 holes, you got a good chance to be medalists. And we cheat. There's no doubt. There's no such thing. Do-overs are just what we do. I'm going to try that one over. So I did pick up a golf league. I did get to go to Indianapolis to see Coach Thad Mata, and he's coaching at Butler now. And my grandson, we have 3 grandkids, and one of my grandson, he thinks he's a basketball player, and they live in Indiana, and he's 8 years old, and I thought, well, above all else, he cannot become an IU fan, and he cannot become a Purdue fan, so I got to start indoctrinating Butler into him since Coach Mata's there. So we went down to the Butler versus Xavier game, big rivalry and so forth, and we got there during the afternoon, and Coach Mata let my grandson come to the shoot-around, and he got to shoot baskets with the Butler players. He was so excited. I got a chance to visit with the Butler team, and at the time, Xavier was ranked, I think, 10th or 12th in the country, and Butler, Thad had just gotten there, so they were right around 500 or a little above 500, and then we went to the game in the old Hinkle Fieldhouse, which those of you that watched Hoosiers, you know, that's where that Hoosiers was filmed, and so was, you know, jammed to the rafters, and Butler upset him. And my grandson was so fired up, he thought he had a lot to do with it from the shoot-around, with the tips that he gave him. And so as the game ended, about a minute or two after the game, this fellow with a coat and tie came up and said, "Hey, Coach Mata wants you 2 down in the locker room." And so we went down in the locker room, and they were pouring water on each other, you know, after you get a big upset. And Coach Mata let my 8-year-old grandson break down the team, 1, 2, 3 team. And he noticed when he was breaking them down that someone was there with a camera or something. So he told all his buddies he was on ESPN, and he was the key to the victory. And you know, so when you get a chance to do things like that, and you have some availability, but it's been fun to get back to be available for my former coaches, and to get to games and be back available for my former players. So as I was going through the calendar, I thought, I know I reconnected with a lot of former players, and probably the highlight of the year each year is getting to be with T.J. Downing, you know, here in Kent. That above all else, you know, but had a chance to go to some of the guys' foundations and the things that they're doing, and so I wrote down, I said, okay, Joel Penton, I don't know if you know Joel, but he played for us, and he has this LifeWise Academy going. It's just amazing. Look it up on your phones, if any of you have more than a flip phone. Look it on your iPhone and look up and see what Joel's doing. We were at Cameron Hayward's golf outing. My wife's a good golfer, so I get to just go and hobnobbing, but seeing Cam and all his guys. We were at Ryan Shazier Foundation. You know, Ryan obviously had the spinal cord injury, and what he's doing with his foundation for families of spinal cord injuries, amazing, building elevators and doing this and that. And Cameron with his foundation is doing unbelievable things with the youth in Pittsburgh. And Tyson Gentry, we had a chance to be at his foundation, and Tyson too had a spinal cord injury, and his New Perspectives Foundation, you know, what he's doing for people. And so we had a chance to get to that. And Braxton Miller had a camp right over here at the Hall of Fame, and his foundation is working hard. Nate Ebner, the young man, if you haven't gotten Nate's book, I know I hate to keep giving you all guys books, but rumor has it you have a little time on your hands. So Nate Ebner's book is called Finish Strong. And if you remember when Nate played, Nate walked on, he had never played college football, walked on, made the Buckeyes, got drafted, won 3 Super Bowls with the Patriots, and also played in the Olympics on the U.S. rugby team. Incredible story. Had a chance to spend some time with him, and Malcolm Jenkins just finished a book. Again, I've turned into an academician, you know, so I'm recommending books. But Malcolm Jenkins' book just came out like a month ago, and it's called What the Winners Won't Tell You. What Winners Won't Tell You. And it's really, his book is fabulous. And I know Devin Jordan, who's a Massillon guy, has got a great foundation. Had a chance to be at his event, and then I had a chance to go out and see some of my old guys coach. So Mark Snyder, who used to be on our staff at Ohio State, is coaching with the Orlando team in the XFL. So Coach Bowman and I drove over to Orlando and saw them coach, and you know, all different rules, and it was a lot of fun. Got to watch Luke Fickle at Wisconsin, and he's playing against our Buckeyes this weekend. But we got a chance to go over to the Purdue-Wisconsin game, and my nephew Mike is his defensive coordinator. Paul Haynes, who was on our staff, is his secondary coach, and Greg Gillum, who many of you may know was a recruiting guy for us, is one of his operations guy, and had a chance to keep track of PJ Fleck a little bit more. PJ's at Minnesota and working hard and doing a heck of a job there. And of course, Marcus Freeman, who just had a big win over the USC last week, and just keeping track of him and being available when the phone rings. You know, when Coach Ginn would call and the phone, I would pick it up. But he'll tell you, I gave him a good tip. Whatever you do when you're the head coach, don't have voicemail. Because you'll spend your whole life listening to things that aren't that complimentary. And then if you do call them back, they're going to give you the same shot back again. So just see the missed call, and if you want to call them, fine. If not, you'll miss some angst. And so anytime, you know, Marcus calls or Luke calls or Paul Haynes calls or PJ or any of them, now I'm available. I'm not in a meeting. I mean, you talk about life-changing for me. A young guy named Brian Wright, who I don't know if you guys remember Brian Wright, but he was with us at Youngstown State and Worcester graduate, and he is the head coach at Pittsburgh State. And I don't know if they're ranked number 1 or number 2, but they're in Division II football, and he's undefeated and doing a great job. And our son, Troy Smith, now is the offensive coordinator at Elyria Catholic, and he found out it's a lot harder to coach than it is to play. He's gotten baptized. And, you know, but it's been fun to keep track of him. And Ryan Franzinger, who was a walk-on player for us at Ohio State, has also found out what taking over for a legendary coach like Chuck Kyle was, and as he's at St. Ignatius, and he'll do a great job. But you know, we all began, you know, at one point, and it's not that easy. And Coach D'Antonio and I took a little bit of a road trip in the preseason camp, and we visited Youngstown State and watched them practice and all that, because Mark had coached for us at Youngstown State. And then we went over to Pitt and watched Pat Narduzzi. Pat's dad, Bill, was from East Canton, right over here, and we watched them practice. And as we were driving away, we said, you know, preseason camp doesn't seem that hard when you're just a visitor. As we were watching them grind through it. And then we've gotten to go see a lot of games. We saw Glenville play, and we saw I've seen Baldwin Wallace play twice. I don't think I've seen Baldwin Wallace play twice in the last 50 years, because I was a little bit busy. Seen 2 or 3 Youngstown State games. Ohio State even broke out a sweater vest that had both Ohio State and Youngstown State. So, you know, I had to represent when I was there, and I didn't want to get hit from either direction. And as I said, got to see the Purdue-Wisconsin game. Got to be at the University of Akron Zips game when Coach Dennison, who gave me my first chance. You know, we all remember who gave us our first chance, and Coach Dennison gave me my first job, and we had a chance to honor him at the Akron Buffalo game, and that was a thrill to be back on campus as well. And one other thrill that I've had, so this is all in 9 months, so I've been busy, Coach Gidd. I've been rolling, is they ran out of old people. And so I got a lifetime coaching award. You know, you start getting these when you get old. And I got the Knoxville Quarterback Club, which is a lot like this. They meet every Monday. They don't get quite this attendance. But the Knoxville Quarterback Club in Knoxville, Tennessee, gives a lifetime coaching award each year. And this year I got the General Neyland Award. And I don't know how many of you are historians. I coached football. I knew all about the University of Tennessee Neyland Stadium. You know, I'd heard of that, but I didn't really know General Neyland, the man, until I got down there and getting ready to accept his award. And I thought, I better read up about this because, you know, I'm not from those parts and I don't know as much as perhaps I should. And so I started studying General Neyland. And I'll just give you a little history lesson that you can take with you and share if you'd like. But General Neyland was born in Texas, went to junior college, and then was admitted to West Point. As he was finishing West Point, World War I broke out, and he served in World War I. He came back from World War I and went and got his PhD in engineering from MIT. Then he went to the University of Tennessee as an assistant coach and ROTC director, and back in the 30s, there was a little smaller staffs on college campuses, and you did a little bit of everything. So he was an assistant coach, ROTC, taught military history, and then after 1 year, he became the head coach. Well, in 1939, I think it was, he ended up winning the national championship as the head coach at the University of Tennessee Volunteers. Well, just as he was rolling a little bit with the Volunteers, World War II breaks out. He goes and serves in World War II. Being an engineer, MIT engineering, he was over in India and out in the Asian area of the war, making sure that all of the engineering, building the bridges and doing all the things, and won the medals of honor and all these kind of things. And after his decorated World War II career, came back to the University of Tennessee, ended up winning the national championship again. Then he decided, you know, I've been in 2 wars and won 2 national championships, I'll become the athletic director. So he became the athletic director at the University of Tennessee, and he enlarged their stadium as the engineer on the project from like 30,000 to 100 and some thousand. And spent 10 years, I think, or so as the athletic director. And after he passed and whatnot, they named the stadium after him. And so I'm thinking, wow, the General Neyland Award, that guy was serious. I mean, I'm from Baldwin Wallace. I've been in no wars. Wow. But what a thrill it was. And I did hear one Coach Ginn story when I was at Tennessee getting this award. They said, we thought we had Ted Jr. We had this world-renowned track team. And, you know, Ted was a, you know, potential Olympian if he wanted to be. And they said, we thought we had him. And then this other guy, Coach Fulmer and those guys were there, and Coach Fulmer said, are you crazy? Coach Ginn wasn't leaving Ohio. No way Teddy Jr. was leaving Ohio. But your stories go all the way down there. So we've stayed busy. One last project, and then we'll get to some questions that we're working on. And Coach Ginn and I and Gary Spino and a bunch of the guys were talking in the back about, you know, the world as we know it, especially for the youth. I mean, it's hard right now for the youth. It was hard enough for us to stay focused. I mean, I could tell stories on Simon and Rogers, and we didn't have Facebook and Instagram and cell phones and madness like we have now. And it was still hard. What these kids have to, I guess, block out to make sure they make good decisions is hard. It's more difficult than it was, and we can shake our heads about, oh, I can't believe all this is going on. Well, it's hard. And one thing we decided in our last year or two at Youngstown State was we kept hearing from business and industry that yes, our accountants knew accounting, and yes, our engineers knew engineering, and our teachers knew education, and our nurses knew nursing, but man, there were some other things other skills that they had hoped we could do a better job developing. So we created an Institute for Leadership and Teamwork, and we created a curriculum no extra classes they have to take, nothing extra they have to pay for, but they have the opportunity to earn badges for their transcript to show that they have worked on some of these skills, some of these teamwork skills, some of these selflessness skills, some of these gratitude skills, some of these love skills, some of these hope skills. Because that's the only thing that has a chance to keep them from being distracted by the world, is to have fundamental things that they're really good at, along with the things they do. TJ remembers we used to always say there's two parts of the block O. One is who you are. It's the kind of person you are and the things that you know are the way to be. And then the other part of it is what you do. You play football, or you're an accountant, but it's what you do. Who you are is way more powerful than what you do. And so we have a real dream as we keep building this Institute for Leadership and Teamwork to give our young people some tools to help them fight in the battle that they have. The war they're in is high tech. I mean, it's high tech, and it's difficult. And so one of the things that is going to help keep us busy and help us try to find a way to add value to the young people and give them a chance so that we can have the great nation and we can have intercollegiate athletics and the arts and all the rest and have great communities. We're going to have to equip our young people to carry it on, because we were given those values and we were given those tools. It has to be done in a different way now, and it's difficult. And so, like Coach Ginn and I used to end every conversation on the phone, if not us, who?
And if not now, we.
If not now, when? And so, so even though I'm retired, and even though, I'm allegedly a great golfer now that I've joined that league, we're still working on some things and excited to see if we can keep adding value. So with that, we're going to have questions. There's one right in the back. He asked his question before I was even done. Okay. Yes, sir.
I have to respectfully challenge the claim you just made.
That I was a great golfer?
Blunt retirement. I would give you an A+ in retirement.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Okay, so Coach Ginn, get up here, because I want them to be able to ask either of us or both of us from our vantage points. All right, questions begin. Yes.
All right, Coach Tressel, this is a two-part question, big question.
Cadillac's in the house.
Now with all the playoff expansion and the new format and conference realignment, question A, are you glad that you're not coaching right now and don't have to deal with the headache of it? And question B, if you had to pick one of your most exciting and funny memories at Ohio State, not talking about games or who you beat, what memory would stick out to you?
Ooh, that's a hard. I'll have to give that one some thought. Let me cover the first one. And so with the playoffs now kind of looks like they're coming in the FBS, I think that's going to be a healthy thing. And the only reason I say that is I spent all those years in 1AA, which is now FCS. And to me, it was a good teachable time that the world wasn't going to end if we lost a game early in the year. Because all we needed to do was get to the point by the end of the year were we in the top 16 teams. And if you were playing well in the end of the year, it really didn't matter what happened in game 2 or 3. And of the 4 times we won the national championship and 2 times we lost it, so 6 times in the championship game, only 1 time were we number 1 going in. We were 8th, 7th, 9th, 12th, but we were moving up. So I think it's going to be a healthy thing for college football. They'll get the conference realignment. However, you know, it's so complex. There's the network TV, there's the conference TV, there's the all the different things, but they'll get that figured out. And I hope then the only suggestion I would have would be shorten the regular season by a game or two. Have a couple of those games that don't mean much, maybe eliminate them, and so that the season doesn't get too long. Because I worry a little bit about some of the kids that are going to play football for a short living, but it's a big deal because the 5 or 10 years, or what did Teddy play, 14?
14.
14. That's a big deal, but it's not forever. I just don't want to shorten that by playing so many college games. And so let me defer over to Teddy about the high school playoff format and impact and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, the high school format, I think, is kind of different. You know, I think we got 16 teams now where it used to be 8. And now I just think it's just money. And I think that a lot of teams that's in the 16th and 15th spot is just being used. And I think that they should shorten that. I probably would have went with maybe 12, but not 16. So that way it's not healthy for the kids to play like that, you know. And I don't agree with that at all.
You know, one other thing, and then I'm gonna see if I can't think of anything funny. We didn't have much fun, did we, TJ? No. No, we did. It was all serious, wasn't it?
I did, I guess.
One other thing that I want to throw about the length of season, because remember how the discussion was always about concussions, and we had a lot of discussion about concussions. Then COVID kind of took over and drowned out the concussion discussion. I think part of the concussion discussion is because of the length we're doing everything. Some of you might have grandkids or kids that play girls soccer. Well, they play all year round. They get hit in the head all year round. Or I was talking to a kid who's in some youth baseball, and he played 62 games this summer, and he's 8. You know, I mean, it's crazy. Well, and the same thing with the sport of football. We've expanded the playoff. When I was growing up, you know, we didn't have playoffs. So you played 10 games and you went on to the next sport or whatever, but you didn't bang your head for 16 weeks. So I think part of it, of the playoff thing, we have to think about, it's not that the games are unsafe. There's nothing, in my mind, unsafe about them. Stuff happens, injuries happen, but the frequency of how many times you hit your head, as soon as you increase, you know, driving is not unsafe unless you drove 100,000 miles. You know, there's more of a chance you're going to get in an accident. And so I think we have to think through that. So the funny thing is, Cadillac, we'll have to get that next year. That way I get invited back. Okay, next, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Hi. We had a mutual friend, Father O'Neill, who spent some years here in Canton, Ohio. And in his failing years, I spent time with him at Geneva on the lake where he had a cabin. We often talked about Youngstown and yourself and what he thought about you. And talked about one player, a freshman at Ohio State, that made the biggest play in the national championship game when he stole the ball from Taylor after he intercepted the ball in the end zone. And we talked about that fact, and we said to one another, I wonder what 2 more years at Ohio State Maurice Cloret would have accomplished. And I said, well, one of these days I might ask the person who knows, Coach Tressel, at one of the Hall of Fame Luncheon Club meetings that he does.
Okay, it's 1 o'clock. We got to go. No. You know, Maurice, his impact on our 2002 team cannot be minimized. I mean, he was a missing ingredient that without him, we would not have accomplished what we did. as far as what would it have been like if he had another couple years, you never know how fate occurs. Sometimes you need suffering that you don't even know you need. And how Maurice handled his challenging time, and he'll tell you it was in part because he spent some time with people maybe he shouldn't have, made poor decisions on his own, bad breaks, whatever. But it created the suffering that he needed, and he'll tell you the same, to really get going on a trajectory in his life that right now is incredible. I mean, the business he is doing, the impact he's making on people, what he's done with his former teammates that you wouldn't even know about in terms of being there for him and making a difference. And I don't know if he would have had the impact he's having today if he would have had 2 more good years, gone on to the NFL, made lots of money, whatever. It's incredible what he's doing with his life right now. And so, you know, we can never worry about the what ifs. You know, what if I were 6'2", I'd still be playing. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm not 6'2", so I better go do something else. But I'm just so proud of him and so many of our guys. I don't know that I can think of one of our former players who hasn't had some adversity that, thank goodness, they had it, and it changed their lives. And I think of my own personal journey, the toughest adversities I've ever had were the things that led me to some opportunities I never dreamed of. So, yeah, I guess we can all say, what would it have been like with him? I'm just happy to see what it's like with the way it played out. And Maurice is making a difference to so many people. So, you know, Coach sees a lot more adversity every day than I do. Now the key is, how are we going to respond to this adversity? And I know that's what scares you the most.
Absolutely. You know, I think that today's time is, like I said when I was speaking with Coach Tress, it's the worst time of living for young people. It's the worst time of coaching. You know, whatever you see out there today, you know, you don't know what's happening inside. You know, I talk to college coaches today, I say, I know what's coming. You know, the cell phone is the biggest issue. The guns are the biggest issue. The behavior of the children is the biggest issue, because the families are broken. You know, social media is taking over our children. They're raising our kids, and it's a national problem. You know, and if we don't, as coaches, don't change our way of coaching, the world is really doomed. You know, we have a chance to make a difference. We have a chance as a coach to set that table that we all was raised from. There's nobody sitting at the table anymore that is teaching you, teaching your children. You understand? At that table, we couldn't negotiate the table, because the head of the table was your mother, your father, your grandparent, and they was really teaching you. We just went to school and obeyed. So this is the problem. The table is missing in the world and in all our communities. So as a coach, as a church, as a school, we have to set tables in the world to make it a different place.
You know, and that's one of the difficult things for coaches, whether it's Don Hertler or Coach Ginn or myself. You can get tricked into thinking, well, it's how many games you win that's important, because that's what everyone's, oh, Coach, you won those games. What's important is what you do to help that young person get ready for a tough world. That's what's important, and that's what we got to make sure we reinforce. We have a lot of discussions about, oh, I don't know if so-and-so's winning enough, maybe we should replace them. Well, let's look real closely and see the impact they're having. Because sometimes be careful what you wish for. If all you wish for is winning games, then you might not get the impact on the kids that we need. And that's, to me, what energizes both of us, is that there is so much work to do to add value to those kids, and we've got to all be singing out of the same hymnal to make sure that we can help them in any way we can. Next question. Yep.
Hey, Coach. I got a question for both of you. See, along those lines, there is a situation where you want to be consistent as a coach and convey the same message, but Coach Tate came out recently about being more fired up, more animated. If this was a room full of young coaches, what advice would you both be giving us about how to reach those kids, how to motivate them, which side you fall on? How do you know the moment? So let it out a little bit.
So really, believe it or not, there's a high school age group that has one mentality, and the college kids have developed theirs, whether it's developed well or not, who knows. It's a little bit different approach. So I'll defer to you, talk about how you would talk to a high school group of coaches.
Well, if I was talking to a high school group of coaches, and even the smaller kids, you know, the muni teams, you know, it's really not about the hype. The kids are not mature enough to understand or handle the hype. You understand? We have to get more into them personally because, once again, like I tell you before, the tree is broken in the family. You understand? Kids are not mature enough to handle hype. Hype for young people today mean fight. You understand? They don't understand that. So if I was talking to a young coach, it's not about what you know in the X's and O's. It's how you can develop a young kid to be a young man. You understand? First of all, you better put some spiritual base into them because you got to try to scare the devil out of them. You understand? Because of what they're dealing with. You know, they watch that cell phone every day, all day long. Do you know what they're facing every day? And if they posting different things, that's what they really believe. You got to trick them or let them know that is false. That's not real. That's a post. So this is a problem, you know, because I have a problem with the young kids coming in from the muni, from the small, because all they're talking about is hype. This is high school. It's different. You have that opportunity to make a difference in their life. You understand? So you got to start from understanding your client. You understand? They don't understand their client because what's on the X's and O's means nothing. You understand? You got to make them better people, better citizens. And for high school, drop the playbook and get the right book.
And what I would say to a group, if they're getting ready to coach college students, is don't assume that they're all the way along, that there are still remnants of the difficulty that they had to face through high school, but begin planting the seeds and understand the seeds might not sprout while they're with you those 4 years. And I used to get, my coaches would, oh man, I just so-and-so's not coming along. I said, well, we don't know exactly when so-and-so is going to come along, but just keep planting the seeds, keep watering it, keep cultivating it. And right now, first and foremost in his mind might be the NFL, and he's blinded by anything else. Well, when those lights go out, which they always do, maybe they'll have the seeds of what you planted that they'll be ready to sprout. And so just keep pouring into them with, when I was growing up, the value of sport wasn't that you could go and play and become rich or go and coach and become rich. Okay, that just wasn't, the values was that you got to enjoy and learn how to be a part of a team, learn how to work hard, learn how to bounce back from adversity, learn how to sometimes not get to play the role you wanted to play, learn how to be patient, learn how to be humble. Well, there's been an evolution, and all of a sudden, trophies and money and draft choices and scholarships took over as the value. That's why I'm playing. We have to know that as college coaches, what they've been through, what they were brainwashed to think was the value. And this NIL thing doesn't help, and portal thing doesn't help. It just pours gas on the fire. But we have to keep planting the seeds as to what is the real value that you really learned by playing in sport, and what can you take from it, what should you be looking at to learn from it. And it's probably not dollars and cents, but it's probably things that can take you and have you last for a lifetime of making a difference. But again, it's harder. I mean, every day it gets harder in high school, every day it gets harder in college, but you know, we didn't get into it because it was easy, and we got to make sure we look it in the eyes and see if we can make a difference, because when you see the guys come out the back end and get it, then you're excited about Maurice Claret or TJ Downing or Anthony Gonzalez or Teddy Ginn Jr., because you know, they went through tough times, but they came out the back end, and now they're going to make a difference with their own families and in society. Next question. We got 4 minutes because I don't want you to pull your hamstring getting out of here. We'll have some guys go to Altman Hospital. Pull their We got one back there?
That one in the back.
Back there?
With your great experiences, why are there so many big name schools and Ivy Leagues graduating students without facing reality properly?
Well, you know, that's society, because we all have our realities. And the question was, well, how come so many big name schools and whatnot are graduating people that don't know reality? Some people, that phone is their reality. Some folks, what they've been taught is their reality. And sometimes we need to suffer. Just like maybe Maurice needed to suffer to really learn what reality was. Our society, and maybe some of the people you're referring to, need to see what reality really is and see if it matches what we think reality is or what they do, and you know, handle whatever comes